Wells Fargo has dealt with a number of scandals. First, there were issues involving opening bank accounts under their customers' names without consenting with their customers or getting permission from their customers. There were also some issues involving high fees related to auto loans that were given to customers through Wells Fargo. And now there is a new scandal that Wells Fargo is involved in, and we're gonna give you the details in just a minute. But before we get to those details, in an effort to clean up its image, Wells Fargo spent a considerable amount of money to air these ads during the finals for the NBA. So let's take a look at that ad.
You know, before we go to it, I'm just gonna jump in and say, look, keep in mind how many people's houses they foreclosed on. And we're gonna give you all the details after that. Okay. While you watch the ad, think about all the people forcibly removed from their homes who did not deserve to be removed from their homes. Okay.
We know the value of trust. We were built on it. Back when the country went west for gold, we were the ones who carried it back east. By steam, by horse, by iron horse. Over the years, we built on that trust. We always found the way. Until we lost it. But that isn't where the story ends. It's where it starts again. With a complete recommitment to you. Fixing what went wrong, making things right, and ending product sales goals for branch bankers. So we can focus on your satisfaction. We're holding ourselves accountable to find and fix issues proactively. Because earning back your trust is our greatest priority. It's a new day at Wells Fargo. But it's a lot like our first day. Wells Fargo, established 1852, reestablished 2018.
I kept thinking watching that ad, and I remember watching it live, thinking, please. And now, of course, a news story out confirming what we had feared, that there ain't no new day at Wells Fargo.
There certainly isn't. So they talk about fixing what went wrong, holding ourselves accountable, and a recent example of themselves holding themselves accountable is essentially foreclosing on people, more people, wrongly, and then blaming it on a computer glitch. So let me give you the details. Between April of 2010 and October of 2015, a malfunctioning Wells Fargo tool miscalculated whether homeowners could qualify for a federally backed program to modify mortgage payments and keep their homes.
Look, two important things there before you get more details. One is, it's funny how the computer glitches are always to the benefit of the corporations.
Exactly.
You almost never see a story out where they go, well, computer glitch, man, we wound up giving people homes they didn't deserve. No, you're always taking away their homes that they actually were paying on and that they could have gotten some benefits for that you denied them. It's always to their benefit. And they keep telling us it's honest mistakes. I'm beginning to wonder if they're honest. I'm not wondering that, I know that. And whether there are even mistakes or if this is done on purpose. And if secondarily, if you're thinking, well, I mean, we got a new Wells Fargo, that was 2010 to 2015, and 2018, it's totally new and fine. Well, let's find out a little bit later in the story if they have addressed it in a way that would regain your trust.
So, as a result of this so-called computer glitch, 625 qualified customers were denied a loan modification, causing at least 400 to lose their homes. So these are people who would qualify for loan modifications. That would give them the ability to keep their homes. They wouldn't get foreclosed. Right? So they're blaming a computer glitch for this miscalculation. For the error that caused some 400 foreclosures, Wells Fargo is offering its customers $8 million, which sounds like a lot, but that only amounts to around $20,000 per customer, assuming all 400 were foreclosed upon in error.
Number of things here. Wells Fargo is bigger in the West, and so that obviously includes places like LA, San Francisco, where if your house was foreclosed upon back in 2010, the difference that between the housing price back then and what it is today is gigantic. $20,000 ain't gonna cover it by a long shot, let alone the emotional trauma and all the other things that happen. But $20,000, of course it depends on the house, but are you kidding me overall?
Okay, let's just stop for a second. $20,000 will buy you a home almost nowhere in the country. And I mean that. I mean that because it's something that I've been looking into. This is the issue that for some reason, I don't know why, housing. I care a lot about it. And so $20,000, that is a joke, especially if you're someone on the West Coast who needlessly lost your home because of this glitch in the Wells Fargo system.
I mean, Wells Fargo says, yeah, look, we had a computer mistake and then we kicked you out of your home and maybe sometimes your childhood home or home that you had been living in for decades and now you're 74 and we threw you out in the streets. We forcibly removed you from there and that home now, the prices have risen significantly in the areas that I was discussing between 2010 and 2018. That home might be worth $200,000 more now, and you might have been able to stay in it the whole time, but sorry, so here's $20,000. You don't even have a home anymore because we foreclosed on you. What the hell are you gonna do with the $20,000?
So Elizabeth Warren has been known for going after Wells Fargo specifically, very aggressively. In fact, during some Senate hearings, Elizabeth Warren went after the executives of Wells Fargo with an aggressive line of questioning, and I was grateful that she did that. She's doing the same thing here. So in a tweet she wrote, because of an error Wells Fargo made, 400 of its customers lost their homes. What's the bank doing to make it right? Setting aside a few $1,000s for each of the people affected. Pathetic. The execs who oversaw this, including CEO Tim Sloan, should be fired. And I agree with her 100%.
So when you go to talk about the bankers and you say, well, maybe they should be fired, people in Washington go, wow, whoa, Elizabeth Warren, okay, nevertheless, she persisted, but hey, take it easy. These are our top donors that you're talking about, and their lives would be significantly affected. It's just a complete computer glitch. You know whose lives were significantly affected? 400 families who were thrown out of their homes. But we never care about the average American. Whenever there's a conversation on television or in Washington, those people, as if they don't exist. Their pain is not felt in the country clubs and in the cocktail party circuit. But hey, they know CEO Tim such and such. I mean, golly gee, Tim's got a lot of kids in private school, and what's he gonna do without the millions upon millions upon millions of dollars he's earned every single year robbing people? Now, I say robbing, they get upset. Now, so let's go back to whether this mistake was honest or nefarious. And it's actually more complicated and nuanced than that. So this mistake in particular, they can come up with 100 different excuses. I'm talking about overall, why did the mistakes almost always favor the corporations? Because if they don't favor the corporation and they're losing money on it, it will be noticed immediately. And it will be addressed immediately and with great urgency. We have lost $17 in that division. How dare they? Oh my God, there was a computer glitch. Fire someone. It cost us 17 bucks. Fire him, get him out of the building and fix it right now, right? But if it's a mistake that helps them and hurts you, oh, look at that, our numbers were higher. Golly gee, I didn't catch the mistake for 5 years. Why? You weren't incentivized to catch the mistake. When it costs you money, you're incentivized to catch it. So perhaps we should change the incentives a little bit. That if you don't catch the mistake, that you get fired instead of rewarded. Maybe we take your bonus back for all those 5 years you were throwing people out of their homes unjustly. Clawbacks, that is so unfair, people in New York and Washington tell me. How dare you even talk about my millions of dollars that I clawing it back? I'll go one step further. Look, if you're affecting people's liberty and their freedom and their house and all these other things, should we at some point consider criminal statutes? And when you talk about criminal statutes, oh no, wait a minute, those are my donor, I know his wife. Well, how about the wives and the husbands and the kids of all the people who were thrown out of their homes? Nobody gives a damn about them. And then they wonder why people in the country are angry.
So, look, they'll argue that there are no nefarious motives behind it. In fact, a spokesperson came out, a spokesperson for Wells Fargo specifically came out and said, well, these people might have had their homes foreclosed anyway, in the future anyway. Oh, great job. Way to go ahead and demonize these people who, by the way, they qualified for these loan modifications. But you're gonna go ahead and demonize them for a mistake that Wells Fargo made. But remember, Cenk, you're right, property prices have gone up considerably since 2010, right? You don't think banks have an incentive to foreclose on these homes? Come on, they love it. They love these foreclosures. They love it because they go ahead. By the way, they're foreclosing on people who have made payments on these homes. They have received interest on these loans. And then at the end of the day, they get to foreclose, take these properties in expensive areas, and then they get to put it back on the market, sell it to investors for much more money. I mean, all sorts of profits are made by these foreclosures.
So they're now complex financial instruments that focus on those foreclosed properties. And so there's a ton of incentives to drive more foreclosures. And if you're curious, like you might say, hey, well, no, guys, wait a minute. The bank makes money if you pay the loan, and that's the whole structure of the business. In some cases, that's true, and it depends on the market. Is it going up? Is it going down? Are there derivatives attached? Are there not? Okay, but you can tell which direction they're going towards based on their actions. So for example, Steve Mnuchin, who's the Treasury Secretary, his company foreclosed on a house of a grandma who they said forgot to pay 37 cents. Now, is that a thing? If you wanted her to pay the loan, would you take her house away based on 37 cents? If your financial incentives were for her to keep the house and paying your loans. It's an obvious, honest mistake. She's paid everything else. It was another glitch. No, they grabbed her home on 37 cents. They just took it. Why? It's obvious at this moment in time in this industry, they make more money by foreclosing on you than by having you pay the loans.
Right, and so that was One West Bank under Steve Mnuchin's watch. That was when he was the head of that bank. Not only did they do that to that grandmother who made a mistake and failed to pay 37 cents in her loan payment, they also fraudulently, they committed fraud essentially in documents to make it seem as though they had the legal ability to foreclose on other people's homes. They had to pay fines for that.
Yeah, so, but luckily the guy who ran that bank is now in prison for that fraud because fraud's a crime. Oh no, right, he's the Treasury Secretary under Donald Trump. He got rewarded millions upon millions of dollars in bonuses for committing that fraud, for overseeing that fraud. And then later he goes, golly gee, I didn't notice it. I'm incompetent. I have no idea what's happening in my institution. We paid a fine, which is a fraction of the profit we made. Isn't this a fun little game where we keep on robbing you and then we get promoted and promoted, and now he runs the whole economy basically as Treasury Secretary. The criminals are in charge. There's no cops on the street. They've taken the cops off, and now the bankers run us all. So this is, and it's so maddening when the right wing oversimplifies and then puts it on a particular ethnicity, which has nothing to do with anything. They take it in an irrational direction. They talk about stupid things like the deep state. This is what's happening in the real world because they have a financial incentive, and they have, yes, in fact, rigged the rules so that the powerful never get punished. Eric Holder, not just Trump, not just the Republicans, Eric Holder, the Attorney General under Obama, went to Congress and said, well, if we put bankers in jail, that could affect the economy, so we're not going to. Literally too big to jail. Okay, so that's a get out of jail free card. So you just go rip people off as much as you like, and the Attorney General just told you, we're never, ever going to enforce the criminal laws against you because you're too rich and powerful. But you break any kind of law, you do any infraction, and you're a regular guy? I mean, we did an injustice series at TYT. I was just rewatching one of them. Guy, so they claim he sold pot. It's not even clear he did. Life sentence without parole for pot.
Yep. Okay,
37-cent omission. It's not like she didn't have the 37 cents. She was trying to pay all along. They take your house. You get crushed every step of the way. Why? Because they captured our government. We don't have a democracy, so your representatives don't represent you. They represent who? The people who give them money. It's not a conspiracy, it's right in the open. We allow for private financing of elections. So the donors buy our government, they rig the rules, so they get everything and you get screwed. That's the reality of how the system got rigged. And that's why we desperately need change. So when it's the Republicans or Democrats who go around telling us, no, just little tweaks here and there, just tiny little change. But if we're back in charge and the establishment is back in charge and the system goes back to the way that it was, everything's gonna be fine. No, it's not. Unless you do fundamental change to the system, they're never going to represent you. You gotta get your democracy back. That's the answer. 2 easy ways to follow the Young Turks. One is hit the subscribe button down below. Then you're a TYT subscriber. And second is ring the bell. And when you do that on YouTube, you're notified of our videos.